Genesis 29. Jacob meets Rachel. Then Jacob went on his way and came to the land of the people of the east, near Haran. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and 3 flocks of sheep lying there, resting beside it, because the flocks were watered from that well. Now the stone on the mouth of the well, that covered and protected it, was large, and when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well, water the sheep, and afterward replace the stone on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." So he said to them, "Do you know Laban the grandson of Nahu, Abraham's brother?" And they replied, "We know him." And he asked them, "Is it well with him?" And they said, "He is doing well. Look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." Jacob said, "Look, the sun is still high overhead. It is a long time before the flocks need to be gathered in their folds for the night. Water the sheep, and go, and return them to their pasture." But they said, "We cannot leave until all the flocks are gathered together, and the shepherds roll the stone from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. When Jacob saw his cousin Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and Laban's sheep, he came up and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well, and watered the flock of Laban, his uncle. Then Jacob kissed Rachel in greeting, and he raised his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. When Laban heard of the arrival of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these things. Then Laban said to him, "You are my bone and my flesh." And Jacob stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Just because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will serve you as a hired workman for 7 years in return for the privilege of marrying Rachel, your younger daughter." Laban said, "It is better that I give her in marriage to you than give her to another man. Stay and work with me." So Jacob served Laban for 7 years for the right to marry Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Laban's treachery. Finally, Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time of service is completed, so that I may take her to me as my wife." So Laban gathered together all the men of the place and prepared a wedding feast with wine. But in the evening he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob went in to consummate the marriage with her. Laban also gave Zilpah his maid to his daughter Leah as a maid. But in the morning, when Jacob awoke, it was Leah who was with him. And he said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? Did I not work for you for 7 years for Rachel? Why have you deceived and betrayed me like this?" But Laban only said, "It is not the tradition here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older. Finish the week of the wedding feast for Leah. Then we will give you Rachel also, and in return you shall work for me for 7 more years." So Jacob complied and fulfilled Leah's week of celebration. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel as his second wife. Laban also gave Bilhah his maid to his daughter Rachel as a maid. So Jacob consummated his marriage and lived with Rachel as his wife. And he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. Now when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he made her able to bear children, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and gave birth to a son, and named him Reuben, a son. For she said, "Because the Lord has seen my humiliation and suffering, now my husband will love me, since I have given him a son." Then she conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, "Because the Lord heard that I am unloved, he has given me this son also." So she named him Simeon, God hears. She conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, "Now this time my husband will become attached to me as a companion, for I have given him 3 sons. Therefore he was named Levi. Again she conceived and gave birth to a 4th son. And she said, "Now I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah. Then, for a time, Genesis 30. The sons of Jacob. When Rachel saw that she conceived no children for Jacob, she envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I will die." Then Jacob became furious with Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has denied you children?" She said, "Here, take my maid Bilhah and go into her. And when the baby comes, she shall deliver it, while sitting on my knees, so that by her I may also have children, to count as my own." So she gave him Bilhah her maid as a secondary wife, and Jacob went into her. Bilhah conceived and gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Rachel said, "God has judged and vindicated me, and has heard my plea, and has given me a son through my maid." So she named him Dan, he judged. Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again and gave birth to a second son for Jacob. So Rachel said, "With mighty wrestlings in prayer to God, I have struggled with my sister, and have prevailed." So she named him Naphtali, my wrestlings. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing children, she took Zilpah her maid and gave her to Jacob as a secondary wife. Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "How fortunate!" So she named him Gad, good fortune. Zilpah, Leah's maid, gave birth to a second son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "I am happy, for women will call me happy." So she named him Asher, happy. Now at the time of wheat harvest, Reuben, the eldest child, went and found some mandrakes in the field, and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah answered, "Is it a small thing that you have taken my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" So Rachel said, "Jacob shall sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must sleep with me tonight, for I have in fact hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he slept with her that night. God listened and answered the prayer of Leah, and she conceived and gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "God has given me my reward, because I have given my maid to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. Then Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good marriage gift for my husband. Now he will live with me, regarding me with honor as his wife, because I have given birth to 6 sons." So she named him Zebulun. Afterwards she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered the prayers of Rachel, and God thought of her and opened her womb so that she would conceive. So she conceived and gave birth to a son. And she said, "God has taken away my disgrace and humiliation." She named him Joseph, may he add, and said, "May the Lord add to me another son." Jacob prospers. Now when Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away, that I may go back to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know the work which I have done for you." But Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, stay with me. For I have learned from the omens and divination and by experience that the Lord has blessed me because of you." He said, "Name your wages, and I will give it to you." Jacob answered him, "You know how I have served you, and how your possessions, your cattle and sheep and goats, have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased and multiplied abundantly, and the Lord has favored you with blessings wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household?" Laban asked, "What shall I give you?" Jacob replied, "You shall not give me anything. But if you will do this one thing for me, which I now propose, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep, and every dark or black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and those shall be my wages. So my honesty will be evident for me later, when you come for an accounting concerning my wages. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and dark among the young lambs, if found with me, shall be considered stolen." And Laban said, "Good, let it be done as you say." So on that same day Laban secretly removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one with white on it, and all the dark ones among the sheep, and put them in the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob was then left in care of the rest of Laban's flock. Then Jacob took branches of fresh poplar and almond and plane trees, and peeled white stripes in them, exposing the white in the branches. Then he set the branches which he had peeled in front of the flocks in the watering troughs, where the flocks came to drink, and they mated and conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks mated and conceived by the branches, and the flocks gave birth to streaked, speckled, and spotted offspring. Jacob separated the lambs, and as he had done with the peeled branches, he made the flocks face toward the streaked and all the dark or black in the new flock of Laban. And he put his own herds apart by themselves and did not put them where they could breed with Laban's flock. Furthermore, whenever the stronger animals of the flocks were breeding, Jacob would place the branches in the sight of the flock in the watering troughs, so that they would mate and conceive among the branches. But when the flock was sickly, he did not put the branches there. So the sicker animals were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. So Jacob became exceedingly prosperous, and had large flocks of sheep and goats, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Matthew 10. The 12 Disciples. Instructions for service. Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority and power over unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to heal every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Now these are the names of the 12 apostles, special messengers, personally chosen representatives. First, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Nathanael, Thomas and Matthew, Levi, the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Judas, not Iscariot, Simon the Canaanian zealot, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. Jesus sent out these 12, instructing them, "Do not go among the Gentiles, and do not go into a city of the Samaritans, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not take gold or silver or even copper money in your money belt, or a provision bag for your journey, or even 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff, for the worker deserves his support. Whatever city or village you enter, ask who in it is worthy, who welcomes you and your message, and stay at his house until you leave that city. As you go into the house, give it your greeting, that is, peace be to this house. If the family living in the house is worthy, welcoming you and your message, give it your blessing of peace, that is, a blessing of well-being and prosperity, the favor of God. But if it is not worthy, take back your blessing of peace. Whoever does not welcome you, nor listen to your message, as you leave that house or city, shake the dust of it off your feet, in contempt, breaking all ties. I assure you and most solemnly say to you, it will be more tolerable on the day of judgment for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah than for that city, since it rejected the Messiah's messenger. A hard road before them. Listen carefully. I am sending you out like sheep among wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Have no self-serving agenda. Beware of men whose nature is to act in opposition to God, for they will hand you over to the courts and flog you in their synagogues, and you will be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as witnesses to them and to the Gentiles. But when they hand you over, do not worry about how or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given you within that very hour, for it is not you speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and the father his child, and children will rise up and rebel against their parents and cause them to be put to death. And you will be hated by everyone because of your association with my name, but it is the one who has patiently persevered and endured to the end who will be saved. When they persecute you in one city because of your faith in me, flee to the next, for I assure you and most solemnly say to you, you will not finish going through all the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes.